All right, we're back, and today we got Steve and his fearsome foursome. 1, 2, 3, 4. The fearsome foursome. You like that one? Today we're working on front struts. This is the new one. I already put this one in, but I figured I'd show you guys the process. It's actually pretty easy. This is the cover for your windshield wipers. These are the windshield wiper arms. You need to get this out of the way in order to easily access the top of the strut to make this whole job a lot easier for you. That is super simple. Take off these two nuts, and if you have them, your windshield wipers will look like this. They have this little cap on it. Pop that off with a flat blade or a pry bar, and you'll see that nut holding that guy down. Now these things are under tension, so when you go to pull it off, it might fight you because these are spring loaded in here, and usually when you take that nut off, all of that tension is right here in this spring, so these will not just pop right off usually. What you need to do is actually bend the articulating point right there back away, and you can rock this arm. Once you rock that arm loose, usually if you walk it off, it pops right off just like that. Then this guy literally comes right off, and you have clean access to the top of the strut towers. Once you have access to those there, you then proceed to the bottom side. Pull our wheel here, and then we'll start disassembling all this stuff. And it's a pretty easy process. Let's get right into it. All right, these struts on these Volkswagens are actually pretty simple process. You've got a singular bolt and nut on the backside here, and that goes through this plate that is attached right there. That plate is attached to your strut here, and that is what locks it into place, doesn't allow it to move around, and this is just a clamp around the base of the strut, right? On the other side, on the driver's side, I believe it's a T20 torque, T25. It's got a clip here that's a T25 that holds a two-piece sensor like this here. So it's got a sensor that goes in just like this, but then it's got another one that comes in on the front side of your caliper and hub assembly here. On the driver's side, you'll have one piece on the front that is just like this. It literally just pops right out like that. And then it will have a steel bracket here that comes down into this that holds that sensor right there properly in place. That way it can't get moved around or anything. On that driver's side, there's a clip piece there. And the easiest way to get that clip piece out is to get under it with a screwdriver and just pry it up and out, because it actually drops down into that hole to lock it in, and that whole thing will just come right off. And then just the same as the other side, these lines just pop off like that. You just make sure you have those out of the way. One of the things that I would recommend as a trick is when you go to spin this off, you're going to want your impact gun, and I believe it's a 21 millimeter. Let's see. Yep, 21 millimeter. So you're going to take your impact here, and when you go to spin this off, this whole thing likes to spin, the whole shaft all the way down the strut. So what you can do most of the time is just take your floor jack, put it under this, and compress the strut in, and most of the time with an impact gun, that'll knock that thing loose. I'm not sure with a wrench, but if you can't, then you got to do it the pain in the butt way and put an Allen key in there, lock it in place. Or if they're old struts that you're just trashing like these anyways, then I guess you could clamp right to the shaft of the old strut, because you don't care if it's getting screwed up, if it's getting tossed in the trash anyways, right? Once you have that done, this is probably going to fight you to come out. And one of the easiest ways that I found, and anyone is welcome to comment and show a different way if they want to. I am always happy to take positive, constructive criticism. But once you have this loose and you've knocked that loose, what I do is I just tighten that up a little bit, just like finger tight, hold it up. And then I'll take my pry bar stick it in here and take this whole lower control arm, and I'll kneel on it just to put weight on it. And I'll take my little baby sledge here, and we'll just beat on her right here, and she'll inch her way out. And the old ones, usually pretty easy. They'll come right out because they're worn out and compressed. The new ones will probably be under some sort of spring tension and be a little bit harder to get in place. So if you do have a spring tensioner, when you go to install the new ones, you can suck that spring in a little bit and actually shorten up that strut, and it should just drop right in. Or you can do it the old school way and gently and carefully pry it into place with a pry bar and walk it in. But be super careful, because if you are doing that, it will be under tension. Always watch your pinch points, because you get a finger in there and it slips, it will shear it right off. Like it's not even a thing, like it doesn't care. It'll cut it like paper. All right, we're gonna see if she's gonna play nice with us today. Nope, she's gonna fight. You can watch that shaft. Let's see if it'll focus on it. I don't know if you can see it spinning, but how do we solve that? Take our jack and we put it under here just like so. So we'll line up our jack right at the end here, underneath the ball joint, and then we'll apply some pressure. I like to go until 90% of the weight of the vehicle is on that thing, but most of my weight is still on my jack stand. And this usually works, so let's see what she does. You can see she's fully compressed in there, right? Just like that. That's how it's done. Now that we've got that off, I actually just put that nut back in there finger tight for the next part of what we're going to be doing. So we can let our weight off of the jack and just get that out of the way for now. There we go. 18. If I have not commented on these before, these are those cheap foam mats from Harbor Freight, Hobo Freight as I like to call it, and they are worth every penny. Oh, come on, stop fighting. There we go. So we're gonna put 18 on the impact gun here, and I like to zip them off on the bolt side, back them on the nut side, just like so. So then you can walk your bolt out at the same time a lot of times. A little harder with a camera in your hand. Just like that. And honestly, these things are usually just like that, nice and simple. So now that we've released our clamp here, I might take a pry bar and try to like separate this out a little bit, but I don't know if I'm even going to worry about it. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my pry bar in and go ahead and start pulling down on this thing. So I'm going to put downward pressure here, which that's why we put that nut back in at the top, is to hold it up. And while I apply downward pressure here, I'm just going to give her some good simple love taps here. Now that we've got our bolt out here and this is all loose, that side up there's held up, we got nothing underneath, so that way this lower control arm can drop out. We'll get our pry bar on there, hold some steady pressure on her. I like to kneel on her, and then just give her some love taps until she comes out. You should see her start moving pretty quick. Just keep loving on her until she separates, and that's pretty much the whole disassembly process. Reassembly is pretty much the same thing in reverse. This is where a spring compressor makes your whole life that much easier. You might run into the issue I'm having right now. I pretty much have this thing all the way out and ready to just pop out. However, even prying down on this lower control arm with as much force as I have, not the biggest of guys. I can't get it down far enough that it just pops out like the driver's side did. Part of the problem is that we do have a sway bar link here, which I jacked up the other side of the vehicle to let that drop out as far as possible so I'm not fighting the sway bar link. So, spring compressor is absolutely something that I would recommend here. Now, that doesn't mean this can't be done without it. You just have to get more creative, and it takes more effort. Especially on these older ones. If it's your trash part, you can beat the crap out of it and everything, right? When you reach this point, if it's close enough, you can actually hit up here on the strut itself to try to bring that up and out. I think we'll beat on it a little bit more and see what we can do to pop her out before we start getting creative and maybe figuring out how to compress the spring ourselves. We can do it with ratchet straps and hokey stuff like that, or chains and binders, but I don't want to do that if we don't have to, so we'll see what we can do. This side definitely fought us more, and I would absolutely recommend getting a spring compressor to save yourself any headache like this has been. So we pretty much maxed out as much downward force as we could get here to drop the lower control arm out and away from the strut. So in order to compensate for that little bit at the end that I couldn't get out of the knuckle piece here, I used that ratchet strap. And it's definitely a sketchy situation. Not the first time, and definitely not the way I'd recommend it. But, as we see, it worked. Now it's time, since we already broke this free, should be real easy. And if you didn't hear it, she just dropped right out. Especially at this point, be super careful where you point this thing. And what you're holding on to. Because if that ratchet strap let go right this minute, if I've got my fingers anywhere in a pinch point, I'm going to lose that fingertip. And if it fails, the end pieces are probably rocketing off. So I'm going to carefully back this thing off so that way it's good to go. And then we'll get ready to drop the new one in. I'll get the old components out of the way, and we'll just reverse the process to put it all back together. Didn't have too much tension on it, so I wasn't overly concerned, but it was just enough that you could very easily find yourself in a bad situation if you get in between a pinch point. Just needed that last little quarter inch to get her out of the vehicle. So, I don't know if you saw it, that last little bit just popped back into place when I dropped it down. Had my finger been in that tip, my finger would be gone. So, that's why you got to be careful. Now we can throw in our new strut. So we'll start just by getting her in here. Get her lined up. And just get our nut on there finger tight for now. Suck this guy in a little bit. Down here, just kind of aligned it close to how she's gonna go together before I tighten up that top. We can adjust as we need, but got her kind of lined up. Pulled her in, and now she's sucked up in there. Probably can't tell from the video, but tightening her down like that gave us a good ½ inch or more extra space to work with. This is the part where I was talking earlier about using a good spring compressor. We'll probably do the ratchet strap trick again on this spring, just to get that, make that process a little bit easier, take a little bit of tension out of that. And then you want to be careful if you're going to pry on it, because this whole piece, the cylinder piece, goes in here, and if you booger this up, you can cause issues or fitment problems and make your life a total nightmare. I think we'll redneck in a spring compressor. Spring compressor would definitely make this easier, but we do what we can, and it worked. Got her sucked in enough that we got one edge in here, and we're able to just kind of walk it in. Had a trouble getting it to line up, so what we had to do was put downward pressure on the lower control arm and walk this thing back and forth to loosen it up in there, so that way we could get it to twist to line up, because when it went in, that was kind of off kilter a little bit. But you can see she's nice and loose and ready to go. So the next step is I will take the floor jack and I will slowly apply pressure until that seats just right and our holes line up, and we'll tighten this down. Once this is fully tightened down and in place and proper, then I'll come back up top, put actual pressure on this, make sure that top is fully seated, and tighten that thing all the way down. And that's pretty much it. Button everything back up and put the wheel back on. Do your torque. I will verify, so don't quote me just yet, but I believe it's 110 foot-pounds on these lug stud bolts. So unlike an American vehicle that has studs and nuts, this has lug bolts. So yeah, that's the process we're gonna go through right now. Got our floor jack under. We'll just raise her up until she lines up beautifully in that hole, and we can bolt her in. I like to put a little bit of pressure on the jack, and if it doesn't go easy and just slide into place, then rock my whole hub assembly here and it'll walk its way in. So a little bit of pressure, and I think we've just seated fully. Yep, there we go. It's kind of hard to tell at that angle, but this piece, these are aftermarket non-Volkswagen parts, and just the same on this one and the other one. This piece, the tab was kind of bent out a little bit, so I'll just tap on that back in, and then I'll walk that whole piece back together with a bolt. I never like beating on shocks and struts and stuff, but you can see now she's lined up pretty well. So that bolt should go right in, and if she gives us any trouble, we can thread her in. But I think we'll be good. Don't want to hit the brake line. Just like that. We'll get our nut on here. Need a third hand to hold the camera. And that's about as far as she'll go finger tight wise. So next to be power tools. All right, let's see how well we can do this. Holding the camera. All right, got the wrench on, holding the camera. Got it that time. All right, reassembly. Get all of our pieces back together. Now, bottom is good. We're all secured. We can check our torque specs, or you can go redneck and just not worry about it. Go ugga-dugga strength wherever the impact gun stops, right? Now, I'm going to compress it. Lift up the vehicle. Well, almost. She's still on the jack stand, but we've got that compressed nice and tight in there now. And that, so we can make sure we get the top fully torqued down with the impact gun. Having that pressure on the bottom will ensure this doesn't spin. Might have already had it. Are we spinning in here? Whole thing's just spinning. Either way, I think we're good and torqued. We'll double check it. Wow, we got some tension up there. Maybe we can get our homemade spring tensioner, redneck spring tensioner off. Oh yeah, that is beautiful. Come on. No tension at all. There we go. What does Weston Champlin call it? Redneck science? This might not be exactly the same category as him, but same principles. All right, let's let pressure off. And now we should be able to get our ratchet strap back out. That is where you got to be careful. All right, it's kind of bound up in there still. So I'm gonna have to yank on that a bit more to get it out. Like I was saying before about being careful with these, when that popped up, it didn't get me bad, but it did smack my hand into this pinch weld, and I can feel it just like a busted knuckle. But I don't see any blood through the glove, so we're good. No cuts, nothing. So I was even trying to be aware of pinch points and still did it. So that's part of the reason why I suggest you don't do it this way. But I'm gonna get this out instead of trying to hold the camera and get it out. Gave her a good yank and she literally popped right out. But now we're in. We're all together. She's fully on her own, ready to get a wheel back on her. I'm just gonna position the jack so that way she can all come apart quick and easy. All right, so the torque procedure on these German cars, these Volkswagens, is fun. Not supposed to have it on the ground when you torque it, otherwise it'll Volkswagen says it will not be an accurate torque spec and is not, it could screw up your lug bolts and all that stuff. And it's, I think it said something like 90 foot-pounds of torque. But either way, once you get your wheel on and torqued, I like to take it for a test drive and then re-torque. I don't know if that's actually part of anyone's procedure or not, but that's a procedure I've always done. Rather be safe than sorry. But now that it's all back together there, we got both sides on, it's final reassembly. Got a friend here hanging out with us today. We'll get this back on, and then we'll get ready to put our wipers on, get the nuts out of the way so that way the arms can go on. And I mean, you can screw these up, but you'll know right away if you do, because they're not the same length. So the short one is your driver's side, that goes on there. Your long one is your passenger side. And this is a great time if you have issues like this, where your arm is way high or maybe it's way low, doesn't go all the way to the edge of the windshield. Go ahead and set your wiper arm and tighten her down. This one was set just fine, so we're just going to put her right back where she was. So remember, that's got some spring tension in it, so if you kind of work it down and then hold it in place where you want it, you can get that nut finger tight on it and then tighten her down. Just make sure she's locked in tight, because if you don't get it tight enough, this thing will just spin on you. Have some snowfall that it's heavy on the windshield, on the wiper blades, and you go to wipe it off and your wiper arms don't move, but your wipers are trying. You'll end up stripping out the inside of your wiper arm. So you want to make sure she's good and tight. Good and tight. So we are. Hey, you gotta speak German when you're working on a German car, right? This one didn't have a cap, but this one did, so just put our cap back on, just pops back into place. You don't drop it down in the way, and it actually pops onto the nut. So get her lined up right, and then she'll drop down in just like that. And that is that whole process. See, fairly simple. Now, test drive time. Just took the glove off, and where that coil spring did pop out of place and smack my hand, did break the skin, but as you can see, just a busted knuckle, nothing big. Test drive time though. Let's see what we got. All right, Steve, what was it you were saying to me? Front end already feels taller. So that is absolutely to be expected, especially when you got old, worn out springs like that. Because I think those springs were original to this car. You've got 162,000 miles. So absolutely within reason. 162. What was our primary concern before steering?
Doing this, but also when you had it, say you're at a stoplight.
Yep.
And you go, the thing that you hear it just like
binding and popping and doing weird stuff.
And
Does it feel like it's doing that now?
No.
Nice. How's that ride feel? A little more planted, a little more firm up front?
See, I knew it. It did not affect my alignment. I guessed it, and I guessed right. Because I had the same problem in my RAV4.
Some vehicles it will. These cars, it should not affect your alignment. Anytime you work on the suspension, it's always recommended to at least get an alignment check, though. So all of our problems that we had before are now seemingly solved, right?
We'll know when we get on that road. I do a lot of freeway driving in this car. Can't have it be screwing around at 80 miles an hour.
Yeah. Well, that driver's side strut was completely gone. Like, full blown. I think all the fluids in it were out of it. Like, that thing looked like an engine leak. It was so wet.
Smacking around down there is what I think it was doing.
Yeah, it was probably starting to physically come apart internally.
Okay, so a few times I go over this and I just hear it go clank, and then it stops. But then when you
a little zigzag at the wheel, like back and forth real quick.
He's kind of doing this.
No, give her one. How's that feel?
Better, tighter.
Much tighter?
Tight, way tight.
Like actually performs where you want it to, the way you want it to?
You're looking at maybe about an inch, probably not even that. 3/4 of an inch.
Oh yeah. That is suspension, right? That is the struts. So I'd say that was a success. We're going to go back and check our wheel torque one more time, make sure he's good to go, and then send him on his way.
Look, I mean, yeah, because of that tire, but still, I can.
Yeah.
I can even.
No longer pulling hard one way or the other?
Yeah,
wobbling?
It's not doing this.
Good.
Thank you, bro.
Absolutely. I got you back.